sebulan penuh, gue hustle di kantor.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the annual Bappenas United Nations Forum on Development Cooperation is about to start, we'd like to invite you to enter the ballroom as this event will be started very shortly. And for those of you who are in the room already, please kindly be seated. Thank you very much. His Excellency Bapak Suharso Mono Arfa, Minister of National Development Planning, Head of Bappenas, and Ibu Valerie Julian, United Nations Resident Coordinator, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning and welcome to the annual Bappenas United Nations Forum on Development Cooperation. Let's give a big applause for this important event, as this marks the 1 year of the UN SDCF. My name is Rory Ashari, and last year I was very honored to be asked to host this forum, and this year I was asked again, so I'm very pleased and very honored. Thank you very much for the trust. And I was really impressed with the collaboration between the government of Indonesia, here represented by Bappenas, as well as the 20 UN agencies and 5 non-resident UN agencies in Indonesia. Before we start, there is some information that we'd like you to know that this event is held both online and offline. So there will be some speakers joining us online. There are some in Paris and other parts of the world. And also this, please change your display name for those of you who are joining us through Zoom by putting your name and institution. And there is simultaneous interpretation available in Indonesian and in English. At the bottom of your Zoom, you will see a button to access the interpretation. And we appreciate if you would please register your attendance in the link provided. This is a very important step for us to have your attendance recorded, and this is very important for you to get your name registered in the link provided. So please don't forget to register your name on the link provided. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this important forum brings together high officials from Bappenas, line ministries, UN agencies, and relevant stakeholders in Indonesia. This forum provides great opportunities for us to reflect on the overall progress of the joint cooperation and in meeting the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals Agenda and the first-year implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, or UN SDCF. To start off the annual Bappenas United Nations Forum on Development Cooperation, we'd like to invite Deputy Minister for Development Funding Affairs Bappenas, Bapak Schneider Klasein Hasudungan Siahaan, to deliver his welcome remarks. Pak Schneider, the time is yours, Pak. Yes, please. A warm of applause wouldn't do any harm, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Your Excellency, Ms. Valerie Julian, UN Resident Coordinator Indonesia, country directors and representatives of 24 UN agencies in Indonesia, colleagues from UN agencies, Bappenas, and ministries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. And good morning to all of you. Welcome. It is an honor for me to have you here at the Bappenas UN Forum on Development Cooperation in 2022. Thank you for attending this annual event that brings together all stakeholders who had been directly involved in the cooperation between the government of Indonesia and the United Nations within the scope of United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, or UNSDCF 2021-2025. Today's forum aims to bring together high officials to review the progress of the implementation and achievements of the UN SDCF in 2021. I invite all of you to reflect on our achievements, challenges, and to identify the best way forward for the cooperation between the Indonesian government and the United Nations, especially to advance Indonesia's development and to achieve the SDGs in 2030. We also need to identify strengths that need to be maintained and increased, and identify challenges that need to be addressed to strengthen the Indonesian and UN cooperation effectively. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I will briefly touch upon the UN SDCF. Ibu Valerie Julian will go into the details, hopefully later on. UN SDCF 2021-2025 is an important document to frame the cooperation between the government of Indonesia and 24 UN agencies in Indonesia. This document is aligned with the National Medium-Term Development Plan, or RPGMN 2020-2024, and SDGs Agenda 2030, and includes all government stakeholders and related development actors such as CSOs, philanthropic organizations, and academia. I have received the UN SDCF 2021 results report and take note that the tracking implementation progress and outcomes of cooperation, which benefits our most important stakeholders, namely the people of Indonesia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that assessing our progress is only the first step towards a better and resilient cooperation. Therefore, I hope that today's forum will not stop at reviewing the results, but also find insights on initiatives and future collaboration between government and the UN agencies. The COVID-19 pandemic provides the momentum for us to accelerate innovative cooperation and coordination mechanisms. We need to address development issues and come up with innovative solutions to multiply results. Innovative financing for SDG support to Indonesia is one of many examples of these mechanisms, where potential partnerships and collaborations with private and non-governmental actors are unlocked. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I would like to congratulate UNRC for their active role in supporting smooth collaboration between UN agencies and the government of Indonesia in implementing the UN SDCF 2021-2025. We also thank and appreciate all United Nations agencies in Indonesia, our colleagues in Bappenas, line ministries, development partners, CSOs, and other development actors for their contribution in the achievement of UN SDCF. I expect the UN SDCF will serve as a reference for the country's strategic plan of each UN agency in Indonesia to ensure the synergy of development efforts. With this, I believe that the future partnership between the Indonesian government and the UN will grow better and stronger. To all, I wish you have a fruitful and constructive meeting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Schneider, for the welcome remarks. And we'd like to know in details about the first year of the implementation of the program of UN SDCF 2021 to 2025. So without further ado, we'd like to invite United Nations Resident Coordinator, Ibu Valerie Julian, to present the first year of the program.
Good morning and selamat pagi, everybody, and my very warm greetings to the Minister of Development Planning, whom I know is online with us. Of course, the Secretary to the Minister, Bapak Taufik Hanafi, the Deputy Minister of Development Funding, Bapak Schneider, the Deputy Minister of Economic Affairs, Ibu Winnie, who I think is online as well, the Deputy Minister of Natural Resource and Maritime Affairs, Bapak Josaphat, online as well. And I would like to also give my warm greetings to a Senior Advisor to the Bappenas Minister on Poverty Reduction and Social Affairs, Ibu Vivi, and all the other representatives from Bappenas, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, line ministries, all of you are online. Of course, my UN colleagues who are here representing the UNCT, all of you, and all delegates, colleagues, and all of you present here. It's really a great pleasure to be here on the occasion of this UN Bappenas Forum, which is really a yearly event on which we invest a lot of effort and attention, because it's really the moment that symbolizes the collaboration that we have between our institutions. And I must say, on this occasion, as Bapak Schneider mentioned, we will launch our 2021 annual report of the activities of the UN in Indonesia. And I must say, this report this year is of particular importance. On the one hand, because it's the first year, it reports on the first year of implementation of our UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. And actually, the way the cooperation framework is now organized, based on the reform that the Secretary General has launched in 2019. It's with the objective to have a greater transparency, but above all, a greater accountability of the UN entities in the countries where we operate. And it is also designed with a view to ensure that we will support the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals, the big agenda for humanity, but as well as the national development priorities for the country. And I must say, this report that we launched today, as you will see, it's quite detailed, quite expansive, quite ambitious as well. And it's because I would say the year we report on, 2021, is by many standards a very particular year. I mean, it's the year that we have been, as a country, Indonesia and government and us together, we and the people of Indonesia have been facing the biggest peak of the COVID pandemic. And this has also been the year when all this came at the time when the country was actually initiating its recovery post-2020 pandemic. So it has really tested us in many ways, the year 2021. It has tested us on our capacity to remain steadfast on the priorities that we have set for ourselves, but also that it tested our capacity to be flexible, to adjust, because everything that happened during the year has actually obliged us to constantly adjust. So flexibility was an indispensable, I would say, characteristic. But it also tested the strength of the partnership we have with the government of Indonesia. And it has made sure that we walk the talk on leaving no one behind. So in that sense, 2021 has been a very testing year. But it has been particularly also a sad year because the human cost has been enormous. In total, we know that more than 150,000 Indonesians have died. And these include some of our colleagues, both within the government and within the UN agencies. So 2021 is definitely a very difficult year. But I'm very proud to say that at the same time, despite the pandemic, we have continued our work, and this has not impeded the life-saving work that we have been undertaking. And I must say, we have remained true to the objective that we have formulated through the 4 pillars that we have in the cooperation framework. And somewhat, I want to say also that this pandemic has brought us closer to the government and has strengthened, actually, our partnership. And I also want to say that I think a number of the results have been possible because the government has also demonstrated that it had the willingness to really go the extra mile to support the most vulnerable in the country. And we have seen that through the expansion of social protection program. We have seen that through the tax reform that has enabled to mobilize additional funds to respond to the crisis. And also the fiscal approach that the government has undertaken that has also supported the economic rebound that started in 2021 and that, of course, continues in 2022. So we have adjusted, we have been flexible, and we have done all this together hand in hand with the government. But I want to say that, and allow me, because it is such an important, I would say, event for us as well, to mention some of the achievements that we had over the year. And let me start with, of course, the COVID response. And in that sense, I would like to refer to the exceptional work that UNICEF, WHO, and their partners have done in, for instance, bringing into the country more than 87 million vaccines that have definitely, through the COVAX mechanism, that have really helped, fight the pandemic, as well as they train 180,000 health workers. Then UNICEF has also been a very essential partner to the government at a time when children could not study in school and they had to go learn at home remotely, and as well as supporting the return to school. Then we have the UNDP-backed SMILE digital app that has actually helped in monitoring where the vaccines are. And this has really enabled health workers to do their job, especially as they were undertaking one that has been certainly one of the biggest, largest, most important vaccination scheme in the world, the vaccination scheme within Indonesia. Then several agencies under the COVID Multi-Partner Trust Fund have actually assessed the efficacy of some of the targeted mechanisms that we have, such as the cash assistance through the cash vouchers, and not the couch, no, definitely not, to assist the most vulnerable people who were in dire needs. Then FAO, for instance, has been working in order to assist as well the most vulnerable of the local farmers in the very remote areas. Then all the Rome-based agencies together, WFP, FAO, and IFAD, have actually assisted the government in that important endeavor, that is the transformation of the food systems to respond to not only the pandemic, but to the crisis that we see in the world. UN Women has done, among many other things, has launched a gender-responsive cash for work program targeting actually garment workers in an area. And we know that those garment workers are actually women. So if you had a sector that is vulnerable as well as women, I mean, that's very important to support those ones. And independently, some agencies and in collaboration, independently, UNFPA and some other agencies have actually worked on what is known as the BERANI project, the Better Reproductive Health and Right for All in Indonesia joint program, in order to assist girls and women access sexual and reproductive health services, bearing in mind that those services are so essential and had been curtailed during the pandemic. Then UNFPA and UN Women together have worked in order to ensure that women and girls that are exposed to gender-based violence, unintended pregnancies, harmful practices such as the female genital mutilation or child marriage, that they are protected and that they receive the support they need. And actually, I would like to congratulate the government of Indonesia for the passing of the sexual violence bill this year into law, because this is a very important step forward to protecting women and women's rights. UNHCR and IOM, of course, have also worked together to protect some of the most vulnerable in society, who are the refugees, who have gone through a horrible journey to escape the hardship and violence and threat in their own countries, and have been received here. And we know that doing so, it's a protection that comes not only to the refugees, but to the entire society. IOM has also launched an initiative, actually, to bolster the government effort to address the social economic impact on the migrant workers. And that as well is important, because a number of migrant workers also returned during the pandemic. And actually, this project continues with a very interesting component that aims at boosting the economic empowerment, but also protecting those same migrants against the risk of infection of COVID, as well as providing mental health services and psychological support, both pre-departure and post-return stages of migration. As well as UNHCR and IOM work together to expand the vaccination to refugees. OCHA has also been a critical agency, and it has helped also within the UN system, within a task force that we had put together for the supply of oxygen to our own staff. Because, you know, we have more than 2,000 UN staff, 90% are Indonesian. And of course, during the pandemic, we had also, like everybody else in the country, a number of people who were sick, and they had difficulty to find oxygen at that time. ILO, the International Labour Organization, has also, through its employment and livelihood program, has trained people with disability, people with HIV/AIDS, together with UNAIDS. This was done, and also to refugees. And then we have other agencies, such as UNODC, that through the GUYU program, you know, the GUYU program is the one that helps us in supporting the government in its endeavor to prevent violent extremism, And UNODC has been focusing particularly on the training of local law enforcement and their involvement at community level to prevent this violence. UNESCO has also helped in boosting the livelihood prospect of young entrepreneurs that are living near heritage sites in order to make sure that we help them and we continue to protect the heritage site that is so important. These are some examples. I hope I haven't bored you, but I can tell you that personally I'm not bored with those results because this has been possible because we had a very tight collaboration with several entities in the government, and we have been able to do that in support to what the government does, because of course we only come as a support. In the report that we are launching today, you will see that there is a visual motif that actually is, I think it's also in the background. You see it on the image there, this design. It is actually inspired by the Ulap Doyo weaving technique, I hope I said that properly, from Kalimantan, and it symbolizes really the close cooperation that we have with the government, with civil societies, with all the partners and the public, of course. It symbolizes, and we chose it because it symbolizes the fact that we have come together in this difficult time to really achieve good results. So in 2022, of course, we continue to navigate some difficult waters, and especially because we have ahead of us that very big challenge of achieving the SDGs. And we know that the SDGs have experienced, you know, a big, I would say, stop and even regression during this time of COVID. So number of indicators are not on track anymore, and we need to work even more to redouble our efforts to make sure that we can achieve that. So these reports highlight the achievement that we have, but I have to say that it's the achievement of the UN system. But the UN system is one entity that, of course, we represent, but behind that big one entity, there are 25 actually resident agencies and 5 non-resident agencies that together have done this work, and they all together have been striving to really meet and achieve their mandate. And my UN colleagues in the 4 results group that corresponds to the 4 pillars of our cooperation framework will be presenting to you the detail of this work, and there is also a video that we have prepared to summarize the report. But all these agencies have made an enormous effort. And here, if you allow me, I would like to thank particularly a number of our actors here in the room or online. Results Group 1, that is actually looking after inclusive human development, is actually co-chaired by the Deputy Minister for Human Development, Community and Culture of Bappenas, together with UNICEF and UNAIDS. Then the Results Group 2 on inclusive economic transformation is co-chaired by the Bappenas Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs and ILO and IFAD. The Results Group 3 on green development, climate change and natural disasters is actually co-chaired by the Bappenas Deputy Minister for Maritime Affairs and Natural Resources and UNOPS and UNESCO. And finally, Results Group 4 on innovation for the SDGs is co-chaired by Bappenas, head of the SDG Secretariat, and UNDP and ITU. And these groups that have been revamped in 2021 have actually really made an enormous effort during the year to make sure that we were on track, that our strategies were adjusted. And this co-chairing actually of both Bappenas deputy ministers together with UN agencies has actually really allowed for a strong improvement of the work we do. It has enhanced the coordination, the exchange of information, and also the capacity to get feedback on the basis of what we can improve our work. And actually, based on this feedback, we have adjusted our work plan for this year, for 2022. So also, I want to highlight that in 2021, we have also increased the number of joint programs that we have. And you know, joint programs is when agencies, several agencies come together under one funding in order to really enhance each other's expertise to the benefit of one given goal. And you know that in 2021, the number of joint programs went from 12 to 19. And I can tell you, there aren't many UN teams around the world who have 19 joint programs. And I think this speaks volumes about the collaboration that exists. And as I say, a number of these joint programs, I've mentioned some of them, but maybe let me quote two that are really significant as well, in addition to the ones that I had mentioned earlier on. I want to mention the one on adaptive social protection with UNICEF, UNDP, WFP, and OCHA, that really has enabled the government to go one step ahead and forward, into its social protection program, having this adaptive component to make sure that social protection programs really are adapted to the different shocks that happen constantly, the disasters in Indonesia. That was a very important program. It is now completed. And we have an ongoing additional joint program that I want to mention because it is essential for the financing of SDGs, which is the joint program called ASSIST, which is together with UNDP, UNICEF, UNEP, and UNIDO. And the objective is to drive private and public capital together so that we can have an additional funding. And here I want to really say that Indonesia has also been leading, giving the example in the world with the launching of specific bonds, especially the first SDG bonds that will really help the financing of the SDGs. So, and all these results have been captured in one platform that started to be used in 2021, which is called UN Info. And lately, actually 2 weeks ago, we had a training with more than 300 members of the government, of the different entities and agencies and ministries, so that we could also present to all of those civil servants, UN Info, what it is, what benefit you can get from it. And the same for a platform that we have launched that is called DOMES, that is an open source platform for all our partners, of course, including the government, where you can find all our publications, all the reports that the UN are producing, you can find them there. And finally, I would like to finish my words in reiterating my sincere and on behalf of the entire UN team, our sincere appreciation to Bappenas for the collaboration, for the discussions we had during the year, for the feedback that really helped us in being better, and for really the fact that we have, as I say, strengthened this partnership, and we look forward to continuing it. And I also want to thank as well all my UN colleagues for their work throughout the year. So I really wish us all a very productive forum, and I look forward to the other component of this forum. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Valerie Julian, United Nations Resident Coordinator. Some of the things there are many things that we can highlight, but some of the things that we can highlight from what Ibu Valerie had to say earlier, that the result report is a testament to the way the UN and the government of Indonesia came together to navigate the unprecedented challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So therefore, we must redouble our efforts if we are to remain true to our promise to leave no one behind and to achieve the SDGs by 2030. And some of the most notable works among many or even thousands of achievements this UN SDCF has achieved so far are that to bring 87 million vaccination doses to the country through the international COVAX mechanism, train more than 180,000 Indonesian health workers, and form a dedicated task force to coordinate responses to oxygen scarcity issues at the height of the pandemic. So we do thank you for the collaboration between UN and, of course, with Bappenas representing the government of Indonesia. Let's give a big applause for the two entities that have worked very hard in contributing to the fullest to the nation. Now we are going to watch the video encompassing the thousands of achievements so far on the UN SDCF, but I believe this cannot cover everything of the programs that we have so far, but please enjoy and learn together from this video, the following video.
The Country Results Report 2021 looks back on a uniquely challenging year. As Indonesia wrestled with the fallout of COVID-19's first year, it was hit with a fresh wave of infections driven by the Delta variant. Progress towards many SDGs veered off course. Some 24 million Indonesians had their hours cut. A further 2.56 million lost their jobs, and the poverty rate continued to rise. As always, the hardest impacts fell on those most at risk of being left behind. But government and UN efforts, including one of the world's largest vaccination campaigns, helped kickstart a recovery. 2021 also saw Indonesia assume a more prominent role on the world stage. The UN Country Results Report details the various ways the UN served Indonesia in 2021, like supporting pandemic response alongside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including supplying 87 million COVID-19 vaccine doses through COVAX and training 180,000 health workers, like strengthening partnerships with government and civil society, offering integrated policy advice and evidence-based interventions, and developing innovative financing instruments to fund the SDGs. The Country Results Report offers a window into the people we work with and for in Indonesia, as we strive to leave no one behind. Like Nia, a religious leader and teacher who encourages girls to postpone marriage until after they're 21. Like Hasana, a community leader working for peaceful local elections. Like Ali, who helps refugees access COVID-19 vaccinations. The report's results are aligned with the 4 outcome areas of the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021 to 2025. The report presents the UN's work collectively, but each result owes to the individual efforts of all 24 resident and 3 non-resident UN agencies in Indonesia. We owe them our greatest thanks, as we do all the people in Indonesia.
Thank you. So I believe every one of you has already had the report on your table, and this video doesn't cover everything because there are too many achievements to read out or to tell, and there are many personal social stories to tell. But I'd like to highlight some of the achievements that have been achieved so far, in which the UN Indonesia's 2021 Country Results Report structure aligns with the 4 strategic priorities of the UN SDCF. Some of the notable results are: first one, inclusive human development, where 35.89 million people indirectly benefited from UN support to strengthen social protection programs, and more than 3 million children received unconditional child benefits during the COVID-19 pandemic. And number 2, economic transformation, where 204 MSMEs in areas affected by earthquakes, tsunamis, and COVID-19 received disaster recovery and resilience assistance. And more than 300,000 fisheries workers benefited from improved governance of fisheries commodity production on land and at sea. And number 3, green development, climate change, and natural disasters, where more than 500,000 people living in rural areas access electricity generated from renewable sources. And number 4, innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs, where some of 1.68 billion US dollars was mobilized via the Assist Joint Program towards financing the SDGs through an innovative mix of public and private financing. And there are many achievements that we cannot read out at this point of time. But we are now going to listen right now the keynote speech of the Minister of National Development Planning, Bapak Suharso Mono Arfa, to know and to listen from the government of Indonesia's perspective. So please watch the video of the keynote speech of Bapak Menteri, Minister of National Development Planning, Bapak Suharso Mono Arfa. All right, there's an update right now. So Bapak Menteri's video is not going to be played. Okay, but we are now joined by the Secretary of Minister of National Development Planning of Indonesia, Bappenas, Bapak Taufik Hanafi. Apologies for the misinformation earlier, Pak. So please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Taufik Hanafi, the Secretary for the Minister of National Development Planning of Indonesia. To the committee, please turn on the mic.
Okay, yes, testing. Excellencies, Ibu Valerie Julian, UN Residence Coordinator Indonesia, and UN agencies, representatives, and also country directors, representative from land ministries, donors, partners, private sectors, NGOs, and academia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Selamat pagi. On behalf of the Minister of National Development Planning, I would like to welcome you all to Bappenas UN Forum on Development Cooperation 2022, a core strategic dialogue between the government of Indonesia and UN agencies to provide policy directions for our future cooperations in accordance with Indonesia's National Development Agenda and SDGs 2030. It's always great to be back to among the UN family. Maybe in this important occasion, I'd like to share with you especially about the policy directions. Yesterday, the government of Indonesia, represented by Minister of Finance and also Minister of National Development Planning, just concluded the consultation meeting with the Parliament to discuss on the Government Development Plan 2023. As Ibu Valerie mentions, that's very important issues that's also discussed during our consultation meeting with the Parliament, starting from social protection. A lot of discussion in that area, especially not only on the scope of the social protections, but also on the targeting. Also discuss about the education, health, food security, especially on the area of agriculture, environment, So it's not only in the area of economics, but also many other areas that Pak Snyder, Ibu Julia, and also the video we just witnessed together. So once again, it's a very important meeting because it's also discussed very important issues and also discussed by the Parliament during our consultation meeting between the government of Indonesia and also the Parliament. Because the Parliament's members coming from different commissions, starting from politics, economy, social, education, health, environment, and many others. So it's very intensive discussion. So hopefully that the Parliament will make decisions, especially during the main meeting that it will be scheduled on June 30th. It's about 2 days from now. Yeah. So it's discussed about not only government annual plan 2023, but also the preliminary fiscal budget 2023. So a lot of issues has been discussed, especially to discuss about human resource development. Since its operation in Indonesia, I'm also very pleased to note that the government has established effective partnership with the UN, who provide expertise in mobilizing international and national resources to support many aspects in realizing our national priorities. In this important opportunity, I would like to extend my appreciation to all UN agencies and development partners for the excellent support, collaboration, and joint effort in the past decade. Please give a big applause to our strong collaboration. Why I say strong? Because who join us today is not only in this room, but also online, over 250 participants also joining us right now. Because it's not easy for you in this room to check over 250 participants. Ladies and gentlemen, early this year I received UN SDCF Result Report 2021, just as Ibu Julian clearly outlined in her remarks, which shows UN SDCF first year remarkable result despite the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm delighted that UN assisted us through the COVAX facility, where by January 2022, 87 million doses and vaccine were administered. As we also witnessed in the video tells not only 1,000 words, but also 1,000 stories. It's not only about the statistic. Every single information, units, achievement presented in the video involve very important efforts, collaborations among us, not only UN agencies with the central governments, but also with the local governments, NGOs, academia, and many other institutions. So once again, it's not only about statistics, but it's involving a lot of important collaboration, important effort, and determination. Of course, we also still working toward the SDGs during the post-pandemic period. It has been quite challenging. In 2021, Indonesia's economy grew about 3.7%, with the highest production growth occurred in the health services and social activities business field, which is about 10.5%. So I think it's quite high. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so financing SDGs requires credible resource mobilization. So that's why we need to be more innovative to fulfill the SDGs financing gap. The UN expertise in developing the SDGs financing instrument remain very crucial. I would like to comment our great accomplishments in financing SDGs, particularly through catalytic use of thematic bonds, INFF, and also establishment of SDGs financing hub. I also very pleased to see a very important development because the very prominent national bank in Indonesia is also participating in financing SDGs effort. So I think it's also indicate very strong participation not only within the governments and also international agencies, but also the private sectors in fulfilling the gap, the financing gap in achieving SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go beyond business as usual. I hope that by the completion of UN SDCF in 2025, because 2025 is very close now, from now. It's only about 3 years from now. A lot of targets, a lot of challenges that we facing together. So our innovation will be more progressive and we will much closer to achieving the SDGs and ensure that we leave no one behind. For example, the UN collaborated with Bappenas to develop national strategy on gender mainstreaming using a gender-responsive budget. This is a great example where the strategy provides direction on the use of gender-responsive indicators for nations and sub-national government budget plans. We should also step up for our efforts to continue strengthening data analysis, technology, youth empowerment, digitalization, and innovation of our concrete action to recovery and resilience. And the government of Indonesia is also committed to implement what we call the digital transformation. Digital transformation is involving many sectors, not only in economic sectors, but also social, cultural sectors. So this is, and Bappenas is also one of the champions in digital transformation because Bappenas, Minister of National Development Planning, is also the chief of One Data Indonesia. So it's very important, and One Data Indonesia is one of the important elements of digital transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, Indonesia holds the G20 presidency under the theme Recover Together, Recover Stronger. Bappenas is the chair of the Development Working Group, and my deepest thanks to UN agencies for the support and technical assistance during our chairmanship and presidency. Indonesia is proud of this opportunity and focusing on 3 priority areas of the G20 presidency. Priority for a strong and sustainable recovery, which include strengthening of global health architecture, digital transformation, and energy transition. So, energy is also one of the important issues being discussed between government and the Parliament. I think the government commitments is very clear to make sure that we follow our policy direction in the area of energy, renewable energy. To move forward and ensure the successful presidency, I look forward to strong partnership with the UN, particularly in supporting the implementation and the realization of our commitments and action agreed in the G20 forums. Finally, I'm very honored to declare the Bappenas UN Forum on Development Cooperation 2022 officially open, and I compliment the UN agencies in Indonesia for the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework Result Report 2021. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pak Taufik, thank you very much. And please stay on stage, sir, to witness the handover of the UN SDCF annual result report from the UN to Bappenas. Therefore, we'd like to once again invite Ibu Valerie Julian and also Bapak Snyder on stage to symbolically hand over the UN SDCF annual result report 2021, witnessed by Pak Taufik, the Secretary of Bappenas. This is a symbolic handover from the UN to Bappenas of the Republic of Indonesia. Let's give a big applause of the handover of the result report 2021 of UN SDCF. So please, for Ibu Valerie and also gentlemen, please stay on stage again. And I would like to invite all these names that I mentioned to please join on stage to take a picture together. Ibu Tina and Pak Pungkas, please join us on stage, as well as Bu Michiko and also Pak Ivan. We're about to take a picture. So we would like to invite all of the names mentioned to join us on the stage. Ibu Michiko and Pak Ivan, Ibu Vivi, Pak Nori, and also Pak Puji, please also join us. Ibu Afke, Ibu Siliwanti, and then Ibu Anjali, Ibu Krista, Pak Jamshed, Pak Louis, Ibu Anne, Ibu Victoria, and Pak Irman. And for those of you joining us on Zoom, we'd like to have your camera turned on, please, for the participants and distinguished speakers joining us through Zoom. Please turn on your camera as we're about to take picture together. I know the stage is not that big, but please squeeze everybody in so that we can we can cover everyone. All right, we can take off the mask a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, just for this photo purpose. So let's take the picture together. 3, 2, 1. And also for participants joining us via Zoom, please turn on your camera and let's take a picture together. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give a big applause for the UN SDCF one-year achievement report result. All right, terima kasih semuanya. And now after this symbolic handover, we are entering the session on UN SDCF Country Result Report 2021, that is moderated panel discussion. There are 4 panel discussions that we're about to see and also follow on this special and important forum. But we're gonna start from result group 4 and result group 2. For result group 4, I'd like to invite Ibu Vivi Yulaswati, head of SDG Secretariat. Please join me on stage, as well as Mr. Norimasa Shimomura, UNDP resident representative. Bapak Nori, please join us on stage as well. And that is the result group 4. Meanwhile, the result group 2, Ibu Michiko Miyamoto from ILO, country director. I'd like to have your presence, Ibu, on stage. as well as Ibu Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti, or Ibu Winnie, Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs Bappenas, that joining us online. So Ibu Winnie, good morning Indonesian time, Ibu Winnie. I believe you are somewhere in part of the world that is, having several hours difference to Indonesia, but thank you very much for your time and for joining our session today. I'd like to start off with, I think, RG number 4, which is Ibu Vivi and Pak Nori. How are you doing? So I'd like to start off with Ibu Vivi first. How does the central government ensure innovations, Bu, and that are mainstreamed at the local government? Sometimes innovations are just stopped at the central government but not distributed and not well implemented at the local level. How do you ensure that this innovation is also implemented at the grassroots level?
For the group, thank you for the questions. Very good morning to all of you. For the result group 4, the innovations particularly in relate to the SDGs. And when we are talking about the SDGs in Indonesia, we have to revert to the presidential instruction. The presidential decree number 59, 2017. Based on it, the local governments, the provincial as well as the cities and districts, are doing planning, implementing as well as monitoring the progress of the SDGs through the development of the action plan, and then monitor and evaluate the progress. The challenge, however, is in the monitoring and evaluations, particularly when we are talking about the data and also the disaggregation of it. Up until now, out of 289 indicators, SDGs indicators, only 101 indicators that has been disaggregated at the provincial level. At the districts, it's of course lower numbers. I think it's around 26 only of indicators that already disaggregated up until district level.
Sorry, 26 out of how many, Ibu?
We have 514 districts.
Wow.
51 by urban and rural, and only 22 indicators for disability status. So, let alone the quality. We are talking about, this is based on the Central Bureau of Statistics, that about half of them, the relative standard error data at the district level is above 25%, meaning the quality is not as good as we expected. So in that regard, we are now moving in terms of innovation on the digitalizations of the monitoring system. I think this is the support also with the JICA. We are currently developing a digital platform for e-monitoring and evaluations. At the central level, it's already integrated with the e-planning, e-budgeting, and e-monef. And in the near future, we aim to link with the local government information system, or SIPD, coordinated by the Ministry of Home Affairs. The development of the SDGs e-monef platform has triggered 2 other innovations done by the local government. For example, the e-SDGs by Gorontalo government, and then SDGs Ku, North Kalimantan, as a platform to support the SDG sub-regional action plan and MNE at that in those areas. And then several other local government has also developed platform to support the implementation of multi-stakeholders partnership. I could mention about the Forum SDGs Sumbar in West Sumatra, and then NTT SDGs in the East Nusa Tenggara government. Other innovations also, I think Pak Nori will tell more about the digital ecosystem for the SDGs Academy.
Yeah.
This is a collaboration between Bappenas, UNDP, and also Tanoto Foundations, which currently already running 3 batches, ya Pak ya. And it actually involve also the local governments, local NGOs, as well as businesses. So in this regard, pandemic has opened the opportunity for innovative and sustainable solutions at the community level. And in fact, we already gather around almost 200 best practices at the local level during the pandemic. And we included already in the National Voluntary Review Report. I can mention here some of them. One is the Sonjo movement in Yogyakarta, which are organizing a local solution through WhatsApp group to mobilize non-financial resources for communities affected by the pandemic. And then the Pinky movement program by the Pertamina firms who support the SMEs through the fund loan programs. And then also the Des Bumi initiated by the NGO, the Migrant Care, who provide training, financial literacy, and also access to government services and government. I think that's all that I can mention. Thank you.
All right, so regarding the innovation, there's still a huge gap between what is implemented with high quality result and those who are, that are still not implemented, but there are solutions and there are good stories behind it as well. So to give you a context, especially for those of you who are not familiar with the result group, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the number 4 is about innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. And we're about to ask Ibu Michiko as well from the result group number 2, in which it encompasses economic transformation. And after that, there will be a result group number 1, which focuses on inclusive human development. And lastly, result group number 3, which is green development, climate change, and natural disasters. And we are now discussing on result group number 4. Once again, it's about innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. So I'd like to now jump to Pak Nori. If we acknowledge the result as explained by Ibu Vivi, that there's a huge gap between innovations mainstreamed by the central government and the implementation on the grassroots is still very low. How can you socialize more and how can you innovate more so that these innovations can be implemented at the provincial and local level, Pak Nori?
Okay, great. I'll respond to that question as well, but I also wanted to speak a little bit about the results group, and thank you very much for introducing the results group. I should say the results group number 4 is the smallest of all the results group areas. But it's very unique because this country team and Bappenas, the country has decided to dedicate one outcome area for innovation. And this is, I think, Valerie, this is not a usual trend in other teams. So this is kudos to Indonesia's foresight of what is really needed to bridge that huge gap to achieve the SDGs, because SDG ambition is so big. With our limited resources and knowledge, I think we will not be able to be where we want to be in 2030 without that jump. And how do we jump? That's the innovation technology. So results group 4 is about innovation, and oftentimes innovation is associated with technology. But to be really honest, innovation is about, doing things differently. So our results group focuses on 3 types of innovation that I just wanted to sort of recap, especially for those people joining online and hearing about us for the first time. So first, we focus on innovation in policy work. How can we mainstream SDGs into the government policy, etc. And secondly, of course, I think we've been hearing since this morning about innovative financing for the SDGs. And then finally, of course, we talk about technology and data. So at the local level, obviously, we are actually reaching out to the community to ensure inclusive way of development planning. And for decades, I think UN has been working with many governments on inclusive development planning. However, oftentimes the level of consultation was limited to officials, or level of consultation was limited to local level, but there was no vertical consultation with different ministries. So this team has actually developed a methodology for much more inclusive way of consultation with all the stakeholders involved. And the innovation is there. However, we are also looking into how we can scale up that methodology we have developed with some of the line ministries. So in Indonesia, we have a procedure for local development planning called Musrembang. The Musrembang requires inclusive consultation in the process of development planning. However, it doesn't tell us how exactly to do it. So we believe that the methodology we developed through our innovative program can actually facilitate that process of inclusive consultation to raise the quality of the local development planning process stipulated by Musrembang and UNDP IFAD. We are actually consulting closely with the Ministry of Village to see how the innovation outcome of our work can be integrated into the mainstream system of the government so that the outcome of our innovation effort is scaled up.
All right. Thank you so much, Pak Nori. We don't have so much time, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, so I cannot give thorough follow-up questions. But all this report regarding result group number 4 is there on the result book that you are holding or that is on your table. I'd like to now jump to result group number 2, which focuses on economic transformation. Ibu Michiko, thank you so much for your presence. And I'd like to say hi to Ibu Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti, Ibu Winnie, who I believe is joining us live from Portugal. So Ibu Winnie, good morning, Ibu. We still can't hear your voice, Ibu. Maybe you should unmute your...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah.
So Ibu Winnie, thank you very much. I believe that's 5 a.m. in the morning there.
Yeah.
Still sleepy, but of course, very spirited. Thank you so much, Ibu, for joining us. I'd like to start off from you, actually, Ibu Winnie. Why Indonesia is now putting so much effort to develop the new economic transformation agenda, which is inclusive and sustainable? Some people would put it harshly, why bother?
Why bother? Because this is very important for Indonesia. As you know, especially that after we are experiencing hard hit by COVID-19 pandemic. And during 2020, the GDP growth of Indonesia.
Oh, ini nih dia di WA sama ini notifnya cuma.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
Ibu. Yeah, no worries. Go ahead, please.
I think I got feedback here somehow.
Let the committee work on the technicalities, Ibu, but please you can continue now.
All right. So in 2020, actually, Indonesian economy was contracted by 2.1%. And this caused Indonesian economy return to lower middle income economy. As you know that in 2019, Indonesia is already upgraded.
Ibu Winnie? Are you with me, Ibu Winnie? All right, there's a technical connection, I believe, there. And we'll join Ibu Winnie later on as we are working on what is not right at the moment. But I'd like to move to Ibu Michiko. So Ibu Michiko, can you please elaborate on how the UN supported Indonesia to ensure the inclusive economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you very much for that question. As we all know, going into the second year of pandemic, 2021, a lot of economic sectors suffered, and also, in particular, vulnerable groups. So it was very important for UN to contribute to make sure more contribution and support goes to groups and sectors. From UN Result Group 2, we envisaged not the K-shaped recovery, but V-shaped recovery. If you picture letter K, which means well-off group will recover up, but there is always a group going down. So the gap will expand. We don't want that. We would like to see the V-shaped recovery, the letter V. If you picture it, that means all of us will bounce back together. And that, in the end, it's the better economic transformation for Indonesia's future. So maybe because there are so many efforts done by many agencies under this result group, just to pick a few examples of inclusiveness and which sectors in which group that we put our focus and efforts on. For example, we all know tourism sector was the hard hit. So there's an example of support to Bali. We have about 95,000 Balinese benefited for increased support for seaweed production as an alternative to tourism industry. We also have an example in Manado to support the village-based local tourism development connected to training center in Manado. We also look at the retail sector, which was also hard hit. And there was a tremendous interest for digitalization of the retail sector. So we have, from UN, we supported the technical training, how they can transform their sector into a productive sector. And a bit more on the vulnerable groups. On the SMEs, of course, they're the hardest hit sector. So we have supported 2,300 SMEs to improve their productivities, 1,500 SMEs, enterprises, workplace support on occupational safety and health for a COVID-free, so they can continue their, without closing down, continue their activities. We also have good example to support small-scale holders in agricultural sector because they are, again, the hardest hit. For the category of group, youth, of course, we have a massive effort for entrepreneurship development support. Women, for the support, especially young women, we put a lot of effort for a promising sector such as STEM, IT sector, which we know is going to grow after the pandemic. And there was a massive interest from young women to take part in for knowledge skills upgrade. And of course, as I mentioned before, certain sector, like in the garment sector, we have put quite a huge cash to support directly for distressed women in garment sector who lost their job. And then I must also add people with disability, refugees, migrant workers. Those are the hardest hit and often do not have any access to livelihood improvement, training skills. So under the joint effort among all the agencies, we made quite a bit of efforts in this area.
It's really interesting that you go directly to the impacted group and help those at the grassroots level. So this is very important to note that Bali is shifting from fully reliant on tourism towards more industrial, more creative hub, more creative place, and that you directly give training and also assistance, especially in seaweed production. That is really good. So Bu Michiko, I'd like to allow you to continue, but I'd like to jump to Ibu Winnie first. So Ibu Winnie, if you can continue the economic transformation which is inclusive and sustainable, please, Bu Winnie.
Yes, thank you, Parori. Hopefully that you now can hear my voice better. I would like to actually appreciate UN for the support during these years, because you know what Ibu Michiko mentioned just now is actually providing a foundation for Indonesia to do economic transformation in the future. And the thing is that when you are staying UN also supporting Bali to start transforming the economy from really relied on tourism sectors, and now we have to diversify the economy of Bali. And this is very much in line with the Bali Economic Transformation Agenda that was launched by our president last year. And this is showing commitment not only from Indonesia government, but also from development partner. We really would like to make Bali economy more resilient. So why Bali is important? Because during the COVID-19 pandemic, we see that Bali economy is experiencing the worst from the pandemic. When other economy already recovered in 2021, Bali economy not yet recovered. So what have been mentioned by Ibu Michiko is actually this is a good start. And UN already helped Indonesia to provide the groundwork and also the foundation for Indonesia to start transforming the economy. And back to your question, Pak Rory, why Indonesia need to do transformation? Why? Because the basic answer is that Indonesia need to jump into high income economy before 2045. And to achieve this objective, we need high growth. And 5% economic growth is not enough for Indonesia to be able to graduate to high income economy by 2045. So we need to have a higher growth, 6% on average. But having 6% economic growth on average between 2023 to 2045 is not an easy task. So we need to do a massive and a new agenda of economic transformation. So our dream and our objective to become a high-income economy will be realized.
Okay, so Ibu Winnie, it's really interesting because Indonesia is really ambitious to be a high-income economy by 2045, but we also put emphasis on the sustainability aspect in which blue economy is needed. So it has to go hand in hand between blue economy as well as our ambition, our dream to be high-income economy. Regarding blue economy, I'd like to be specific. What can UN agencies do to support this realization of blue economy along with our economic progression towards 2045, Bu?
Yeah, actually, I would like to mention as well that blue economy is actually a part of strategy of Indonesian transformation agenda. So if you look at the 6 strategies, and then among the 6 strategies, there is one of the strategy mentioning about blue economy. And the thing is that I have to also to thank to UN agency that this year UN really committed to support Indonesia in developing the master plan of blue economy that will be undertaken this year. Pak Rory, are you still?
Yes, we are still here, Bu.
All right. So UN, RC, and also there's some UN agency already provided support for Indonesia to develop the master plan of blue economy. As you know that this year, Bappenas is now preparing the master plan of blue economy for Indonesia's economic transformation. And then UNRC, ILO, and also UNEP already provided support for us to develop that master plan.
All right.
And for your information, the master plan is actually one of the flagship of Indonesia's G20 presidency. Blue economy also discussed in the development working group. And then we will also have a side event of blue economy on the sideline of development ministerial meeting in September.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Ibu Winnie, I'd like to get back to Ibu Michiko once again. So Ibu Michiko, to work on the achievements of the economic transformation, the UN and also the government of Indonesia cannot work alone. Can you please explain all the partners, all the friends and also colleagues that you have included, you have engaged to do your task, especially for group number 2?
Thank you for the second question. Indeed, for economic recovery, we need a lot more partners to realize the goals. And I would like to emphasize, of course, government agencies or line ministries, that's without saying, but a private sector's involvement was quite important. Some private sector has actually provided funding, such as Cargill, City Foundation, Unilever, JP Morgan, Fast Retailing, Uniqlo, etc. But actual participation of Employers Association, Cadena, Pindo, they also played quite an active role because we need business to recover business. And on the other side of the scale, we also had CSOs, trade unions, that from the ground level, they need to support the recovery together from their perspective for sustainabilities. And UK government, Swiss government, Swedish, Denmark, Korea, Australia, France, Japan, they all contributed for multi-donor funding or bilateral funding for this effort.
Thank you, Ibu Michiko. Final words for both Pak Nori and also Ibu Winnie. Ibu Winnie, please, can you please highlight about the achievements so far about our economic transformation and what we can expect in the next 4 years, especially until the completion of UNSDCF program?
I would like to say that the economic transformation agenda needs to be inclusive and sustainable. Why is it inclusive? Because it has to be aligned with the SDGs concept. No one left behind, and everyone can also really chip in and participate to the economic growth. And the second one that is it has to be sustainable. So that's why in the near future, we really would like to commit that the economic development will be green and blue, and it will be really not only achieving a high growth, but also it needs a balance between social and environmental aspects.
All right, Pak Nori, your time.
Okay, maybe two things, but as Ibu Vivi was talking about the SDG Academy, I think for the next few years and up to 2030, the battle continues to build the alliance to really achieve the SDGs. And for that, we already know, we are already converted to achieving SDGs, but there are so many millions of people out there who probably doesn't know much about SDGs yet. So we need to continue to advocate for the SDGs through SDG Academy and everything else that we have. The other thing is I didn't get to talk about the SDG financing, but innovative financing is quite important. Particularly in the context of the current crisis. If you look at the COVID and the social impact, socio-economic impact to the people, if you look at the global crisis, everything is actually affecting the poor and the marginalized persons much more than, perhaps us sitting here. So, and when you think about it, SDGs and its focus on leave no one behind is exactly the right solution, diagnosis. So we need to keep focused on that. But as I said, SDG's ambition is so huge. We need to mobilize and not funding so much, but we need to steer the financing of this country, international also, to be geared away from the brown economy to the green. And in this context, we have a number of UN agencies collaborating with Ministry of National Planning, as well as Ministry of Finance and others. And I think Indonesia, as I think RC mentioned earlier today, is pioneering this exercise. It is actually showcasing a number of financing instruments already in the Development Working Group, as well as Sustainable Finance Working Group, Climate Sustainability Working Group. The world is learning from Indonesia, and I'm really feel proud that we can be actually a partner of the government to keep working on that very important agenda.
Thank you so much, partner. Let's give a big applause for result group number 2 and also number 4 on economic transformation as well as innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. Ibu Winnie, thank you so much for the time you have spent with us live from Portugal, Ibu. Please stay safe and have a nice day. Thank you. Ibu Michiko, Pak Nori would like to please you to return to your seats as we proceed to the next result groups, which is result group number 1 on inclusive human development and result group number 3, green development, climate change, and natural disasters. I'd like to invite result group number 1 first. Please welcome Pak Pungkas Bajuri Ali, Director for Public Health and Nutrition, on behalf of Deputy Minister for Human Development, Community and Cultural Affairs. Pak Pungkas, please come on stage. Number 2 is Ibu Kritayawan Bunto, or Butina, from UN AIDS Country Director. Ibu Tina, please come forward. I would like to invite result group number 3 now. Pak Yosapahat Rizal Primana, Deputy for Maritime Affairs and Natural Resources. And from the UN representative, Mr. Mohamed Jalid, UNESCO Director, joining us online from Paris at 6 a.m. in the morning. All right, Pak Yosapahat, are you here? Or are you joining us online as well? Or you are joining us online as well? Pak Yosapahat, where are you, Pak, right now? Hello? I think the audio is still muted, guys.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I can unmute now.
Yes, Pak Rizal, where are you now, Pak?
Actually, I'm sorry that I have to attend this meeting, but I got the quote-unquote COVID problem now, so I have to isolate myself in my house. So I think that I have to join this by online.
So you are still recovering from COVID, and hopefully you can recover
hopefully
as speedy as possible.
For the next 2 days probably.
And Pak Mohamed, you are now in Paris, so thank you very much for joining us, Pak Mohamed.
Good morning, Good morning. Yes, indeed, I'm in Paris. I'm attending the summit, the education transforming system.
It's our pleasure.
It's wonderful. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Mohamed Jalid. We'd like to start with result group number 1. I'd like to ask Pak Pungkas first. Pak Pungkas, what are actually the priorities, good joint practices, and also lesson learned that you'd like to share from with the participant, particularly in the area of health and education amid the COVID-19 pandemic? I think we can mute the Zoom audio, guys, before we continue with the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to appreciate all of our hard works in this pandemic years, and I think we have gone through that problems nicely and swiftly, and the government, with the support of the UN agency and UN families, has been able to control COVID up to now. Looking at the priorities, especially for the outcome 1. Actually, it's in line with 3 national priorities. We call it priority 1, 3, and 7. Number 1 is regarding with the poverty and economy, and number 3 regarding to the health and well-beings, and number 7, which is on politics, legal security affairs, as well as on public services transformations. I think this outcome number 1 is quite huge because it's representing 11 outputs, and I think if you look at the report, the allocations, it accounts for about probably 60%, 48%, so it's quite big. But I would like to ask on the good practices for health and education without the other areas also have a lot of good practices, from spanning from social protections, food security, up to the violence and health. Now, in this 2 area on the health and actually I'll include wash and nutrition as part of health-related issues. So in the nutrition, the UN agency has helped us in supporting the national framework for stunting reduction program, which is now put in higher priority in our governments. And one of the contribution is to set up the frameworks, especially on the 8 sensitive interventions, which is now being the guideline for all districts, all provinces in stunting reduction program nationally. And also one of the good practices that using these cooperations, we now being able to produce locally what we call it therapeutic ready to use therapeutic food, which is food available for severe wasting children. And up to now we got imported from outside, but with the help of the UN families, we now able to produce locally, which is, I mean, very, very good progress if you want to expand this program. We also, with the UN, have launched the framework and operational roadmap for global action plan for wasting, child wasting, and also launched the rice fortification landscape analysis. So rice fortification is also one of our target, the RBGMN, and both biofortifications as well as post-harvest fortifications has been being on the way now. And we are accumulated on the discussion on how we can deliver this very nice and cheap intervention to combat malnutrition.
All right.
In area of health, I think has been mentioned several times, one of the biggest contribution is how we are dealing with the COVID vaccinations. And it has been now, almost everybody has been shot for the third and the booster. But that is not mentioned here is that UN's support also helping us in reaching the routine immunization, which is a big gap because of the pandemic. The routine immunizations can also create outbreaks in the future, a lot of diseases actually. And with the support of UN, we also create the surveillance system, which now be able to mimic how COVID record everything. So we hope that with the support in the future, every single mothers will understand, will know the deadline, the schedule of every single immunization for the children, which is very nice because now mother tend to forget
the schedule.
Schedule. So this is one of the innovations. In the area of wash, I think it's very important because it's very simple intervention, which is hand washing. Is very important in controlling pandemic, and it happens to almost every disease in Indonesia. And hand washing is one of the big area in this output that is looks so simple, but yet the effect is quite big. So this UNSC also helping us in this implementation of national roadmap for water safety plans 2021-2035. And last but not least, on the educations, the UN helped approximately 5.7 million students to safely resume face-to-face study. Now, despite the best effort, however, we cannot do it perfectly in class learning because it's not possible. So the UN agency also invested in improving the quality of distant learning, which is cope mechanisms on how we face this pandemic.
All right.
And also support on the scale up of early grade learning program in Papua, how to draw again children out of school, going back to the system, which is very important in the eastern part of Indonesia. So that one of several best practices, as mentioned, there's a lot of practices. As you asked about the lesson learned, I think the first lesson learned is if we could monitor and evaluate all the progress and learn from it and to improve the next program, that will be very, very useful, as well as engaging with many many partners, because not single program output in this outcome can work alone.
Yeah.
So working together among output is very important. And then second lesson learned is the bottlenecking. There are a lot of issues, a lot of effort that has been for many years still there. Now the key is how we can debottleneck the issues. If we can find what are the real problem is, I think that will be very, very, very useful for our program.
Thank you so much. Bottlenecking the stubborn issues as well as collaboration, the lesson learned from panel result group number 1. But I'd like to jump on to Ibu Tina right now, as you are one of the 2 RG1 co-chairs from UN, Bu, along with Pak Robert Goss, UNICEF representative. So I understand that the outcome of result group number 1 has the most outputs compared to other result groups. What were the challenges that you faced along with your team, and what was the lesson learned that you got from your experience so far?
Yeah, I think you've just said it, Rory. It's like the result group with the most areas to cover.
This is including vaccination as well as 87 people got the vaccine from COVAX,
this is
right?
Inclusive human development, which then, as Pak Pungkas mentioned, covers health, education, social protection. WASH is, another category from health, although we put it together. And then there's food security, nutrition, human rights, gender equality. I think I've forgotten a few, but it's all violence against women, human rights framework, laws enabling environment, and yeah, I think that's about it. But so imagine all that, right? And refugees, asylum, and migration issues as well. So imagine all that, and it's organized the same way as the other result groups. So that means that we have the same number of resources, only 2 co-chairs dealing with so many issues. But I think there has been some very good models. So for areas that there is already very good coordination and collaboration, for example, health or social protection and education, and also those big groups, food security, it works easier. So the lessons learned, the meetings, regular consultations, even during COVID, the groups continue to meet, and so that has been really helpful to learn. I just want to touch on a couple of things that you're not asking me, but since I'm talking and I have the mic, I'm just going to go there. And before everyone rushes off to lunch, COVID has sort of opened up the fault lines of the systems for health, education, the human part of the human development. And I think that Indonesia has done really well, in fact, to keep the key basic services going. It didn't collapse completely. There were problems. Children were out of school. Now they're back in school. But socioeconomic shocks definitely disrupted a lot of the services. So I think using the opportunity and building on the lessons or the information that we saw arising from the responding to COVID, we can definitely push this resilience recovery forward and use this opportunity of the focus of the country pushing forward in terms of their leadership for the G20, the resilience, health system, global health architecture, the digital transformation, and the renewable energy angle. Those things really will impact on inclusive human development, and it would be really useful. So as Pak Taufik, who's now not here, but I think we could pass this message on to him, because he was talking about presenting to the parliament, to the member of parliament, what else do we need to do in terms of human development. They're discussing the budget. I really think, look at the areas that we did well, but some areas that still remain a problem, and ensure that we do more and work together more to focus on that. It might not be listed in the beginning in the SCDF, but there are definitely some things that came out of that. In that case, I would like to mention also the digital transformation work, which, although it's in another result area, but it definitely will help. We saw with COVID for health, there has been so many innovative approaches, use and dependency and reliance, and using that opportunity to provide, basic essential health packages for people at home to just call the doctors, do telemedicine. That would really, it is already a sea change, a game changer.
And if we could expand that, it would really help a lot to improve data, improve reporting, improve surveillance, improve people accessing care. So that's one area. One other area, sorry, I will stop after this, is we heard from the education sector and children who have been disrupted from not going to school. There is increasing mental health issues. And I think that here they are the future of every country. So this human development angle, we really need to look at that as well. What are some of those things that we haven't looked at before? And we must invest more in that to make sure that everybody is not left behind and these issues are covered. So sorry to take up too much.
It's all right, Ibu Tina. Thank you for your thorough explanation in a very short period of time. Thank you so much. But I'd like to move to now result group number 3 in green development, climate change, and natural disaster. I'd like to start off with Pak Rizal. So, Pak Rizal, thank you so much for joining us, although you are still recovering right now. Do you feel that there are gaps, Pak Rizal, particularly within the issues that are under result group number 3, which are green development, climate change, and natural disasters? Can you please elaborate, and what can we do about it?
Thank you, Pak Rory. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much. And I think for the gaps, not much gap that we have experienced, because the UN done so many activities and we've been very good collaboration and coordination. And what might be left is the sectors that we still see need to be more increase on the cooperation in the futures, like broad issues on the water quality and also the waste management. I think that's the important issue that we have in the future, because it's also Pak Pungkas said that the water can also affect the health for the people and also the welfare of the people, and in turn then it will be also given an effect to the economic of the country as a whole. And I think we have a very serious problem with the water supply, our water supply, as also mentioned by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, that 95% of rivers in Indonesia were heavily polluted. So I think from there that we have to also take a look at very more attention to the water system and water supply in the country. And the second things that I would like also mention is for the energy transition, that we know we are still having a struggle on the attacking climate change, and the energy sector is one of the main contributors for the greenhouse gas, and also the sectors that we're going to have more progress in the transition from the fossil fuel to the renewable. We know that the country still have a heavy rely on the fossil fuel for the energy supply, whether it is for the electricity or the transportation, and moving from fossil fuel to the renewable is not an easy task, and we have a problem on how can we accelerate that, because the problem is the institutional problem that we have, and we know that the state-owned company, our electricity company here, has been operated for 50 years with the same system, and also the situation that also problem in our financial support on how can we change our fossil fuel to renewable. So that's why the involvement of the private sector will be big support in our development in the future. So I think those two things that I would like to also increase in the future of cooperation with the UN. Thank you.
Pak Rizal, thank you very much, and hopefully the organizing committee can work on the audio as we'd like to move on to Pak Muhammad Jalid. Guys, can you please turn off the audio for Pak Rizal? please. Right, thank you. Now I would like to move on to Pak Mohamed Jalid joining us from Paris. Pak Jalid, as RG3 co-chair, how do you envision the challenges facing RG3, which includes green development, climate change, and natural disaster?
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum again. From Paris. I think let me first give you some kind of background or the situation. I know we don't have much time, but I will try to be brief. For the result group number 3, I think we have the 20 UN agencies. I think actually contributing to the result group 3, green development, climate change, and natural disasters, like you said, and what we did so far, and the UN takes an active role in Indonesia, ranging from policy advice, data mining, standard guidance, reporting, capacity building, as well as implementation of activities on the ground. I think this is what we are doing actually. Now, the context of Indonesia, we know that it's among the world's most biodiverse countries, both on land and underwater, which make a lot of challenges. It's home to some of the largest of most significant protected areas in the tropic, including like tropical rainforest heritage of Sumatra or Lawrence National Park World Heritage Site. And both sites face significant challenges, including encouragement, infrastructure, development, you can name them. Now, the positive aspect of this, I think greater effort has been made to expand conservation area. Measures and regulation to preserve life and land, which is related to SDG 15, or also the below water, like was said, related to SDG 14. Marine protected areas have been increasing, and the adoption of national and local disaster risk reduction strategy have also expanded. I think this kind of, we need to highlight this positive aspect. In spite of the challenge also, it faced with the environment, climate, or disaster related, Indonesia has made significant progress in recent years and take an action position regionally and globally. And we can see now actually where Indonesia sharing lessons learned in context of regional or global through UN global frameworks such as SDGs, COP26, or Sunday framework for DRR and others, and name them. Now, this is saying this, the main question is really, okay, what the main challenge, what will be the priorities for us in terms of the coming year. We know Indonesia is a significant emitter of greenhouse gases, mainly due to the conversion of its forests and carbon-rich wetlands. It has ecological and social consequences, as Indonesia forests at home to thousands of plant and animal species. Renewable energy development in comply with Indonesia is likely to reach the established target of 23% renewable energy in 2025, which is going to be difficult to comply with the Paris Agreement. Significant renewable energy generation is required also to decarbonize the energy system in Indonesia, including power generation, transportation, and different sectors by 2050. This is one. The country also faced significant losses in biodiversity due to conversion of forests and peatland to agriculture, largely due to the oil palm expansion in recent decades. Greater effort, of course, have been made to expand conservation area. I think that this is really, we have to acknowledge this. Now, what kind of issues that we are facing? What challenges? I would say that at the national level, Indonesia has well-established and well-capacitated policies. This is at national level. Regulations and procedures. However, we can see the challenge that many gaps and challenges persist in terms of implementation, especially at the local level. And generally, we say that upstream and downstream. And this is the big gap. Example, there are 34 provinces, 416 districts, and 98 cities in Indonesia that still have limited capacity. And here, where UN can strategically continue to contribute and plays an important role for Indonesia. I think this is where I think most probably we will emphasize in terms of priorities. Other things, I think it's related to really many of these provinces, districts, and cities are aware that UN and how UN can be leveraged for them to improve implementation of environmental and disaster management. There's a significant interest in obtaining technical assistance, and we saw it when we were discussing with the communities, and this is what are the question: local climate changes, adaptation, mitigation policy and implementation, reducing environmental degradation, enhancing local and community capacity and disaster risk reduction, and mitigation, early warning, and emergency response, like we did recently in Bali. Now, the way forward, I will say, I think, because this is the most important, because you can tell me, okay, then what we do with this challenge. I think in the field of environment resilience to climate change and disaster risk reduction, what we can do is really, climate and disaster happen locally and affect the local people. So a resilient nation depends on the capacity and capability of people, while the government provides the policy, regulation, support, and service. Which means that engaging more with the local communities. In the case of building climate and disaster resilient community, UN will and should shift and focus to address local issues and concern and work with the community. I think this is one aspect where we need to highlight. The other aspect, maybe we're not talking much. It's engaging with youth. We know approximately actually today 40% of our Indonesian population, 270 million, is between the age 14 to 40 years old. I think this is huge potential of the youth and young professionals in Indonesia. The UN could take advantage of level potential of Indonesia youth and youth professional through intergenerational collaboration. I think focusing on generation gap to ensure this sustainability in the policy. I think this is really one of the topics. I can talk about also.
Pak Jalid,
yes.
I have to interview
Yeah,
that we only have 1 minute left. So
Yes.
if you could make it faster, thank you, sir.
Yes, of course. I will not talk about the transitional renewable. I think it's one of the big, but I would finish my 1 minute by highlighting two issues. I think it was highlighted by my colleagues previously, but this is one other thing. Enhancing the partnership. I think this is one where we can achieve. That we can provide the space of expertise, also can bring the partners, and especially the private sector. I think this is one thing. The other aspect, and I will finish by this one, is really what we need is to scale up the initiatives. Actually, we are doing many initiatives where with great results, but we need, I think, at this stage to scale up our initiative to have an impact on what we are doing. I will stop here and take a message.
Thank you so much, Pak Muhammad Jalid, UNESCO Director, joining us live from Paris, and as well as Pak Yosapahat Rizal Primana, Deputy for Maritime Affairs and Natural Resources. And thank you as well for Ibu Tina and also Pak Pungkas for joining us. Please return to your seat. Terima kasih sekali lagi, representing result group number 1 about inclusive human development and result group number 3 about green development, climate change, and natural disasters. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite, thank you. Now I would like to invite Ibu Penny Dewi Herasati, Director for Socio-Cultural and International Organization of Developing Countries from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to provide feedback as well as comments on Indonesia and as well as UN cooperation. Ibu Dewi, Ibu Penny Dewi, the time is yours, Ibu.
Thank you, Pak Rory. Secretary of the Ministry of National Development Planning, Bapak Taufik Hanafi. United Nations Resident Coordinator, Ibu Valerie Julian. Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and give feedback on the UN Indonesia's 2021 country results report. The said report is a demonstration of our joint commitment for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021 to 2025. It will also provide us a chance to evaluate the effectiveness of work plan and strategy, or the lack of it, throughout the implementation of the cooperation framework. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I will not go through the extensive work and cooperation that has been conducted by Indonesia and the UN and has been elaborated by the 4 result groups. Allow me in this regard to give feedback on several issues that are important and can act as a showcase on how the cooperation has been successfully managed. First and foremost, we welcome the initiative to form 4 results groups for this forum. The grouping allows us to streamline the evaluation of the implementation of Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework in 2021. On the framework of inclusive human rights and development, we have seen Indonesia's and UN active cooperation in ensuring access for health in the pandemic period. The year 2021 have seen the peak of COVID-19 pandemic and the emergence of new variant of concern in Indonesia. As mentioned before, it posed challenges to implementation of the UN SDCF in 2021 due to setbacks in capacity building programs as well as development budgeting and financing. We noted, however, that the critical situation also helped stimulate digital innovation that enable programs or services to reach most populations in Indonesia, not to mention the vulnerable community. We applaud the Ministry of Health of Indonesia and the UN for accelerating the digitalization of vaccination delivery across all of Indonesia's 34 provinces through SMILE application. We also noted the extensive support that given by WHO for the COVAX initiative that allows us to be where we are today in vaccine cooperation and diplomacy. In 2021 also, we paved the way for cooperation between Indonesia and the IOM and with related UN agencies, namely UNDP, UN Women, UNRC, the Migration Multi-Partner Trust Fund on the issue of GCM implementation. The implementation of GCM is highly important, and we are now formulating a national action plan for this in close coordination with the IOM. To develop and advance inclusive and sustainable industrial development, Indonesia works with UNIDO through the Partnership for Country Program for the period 2021-2025 that help accelerate economic growth through a strong focus on important elements of SDGs, such as poverty eradication, the promotion of energy for all initiative, cleaner production, and international partnerships. On green development, climate change, and natural disasters framework, Indonesia views environmental and climate change as developmental issues capable of affecting the lives of livelihoods of people. As such, we welcome further cooperation with UN Indonesia to implement concrete climate action, in particular to help achieve the national determined contributions and implement Indonesia long-term strategy on low carbon and climate resilience 2050 towards achieving net zero 2060 or sooner. On innovation of the SDGs, the work of ITU has been fundamental to build an integrating and inclusive information society. The multilateral cooperation framework allows us to better provide ICT and services, even for communities living in rural areas. The need for innovation in the pandemic era also brings more opportunity for cooperation, as noted in the 65th session of UN COPOS. Members countries, including Indonesia, will seek the peaceful use of outer space technology in supporting pandemic response program. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we welcome the development of UN Info and DOMES. The platforms shall provide credible and extensive information on UN programs in Indonesia, thus improve accountability of UN programs and partnership. We hope that this platform can also give insight and contribute to policy-making process in Indonesia. Last but not least, we support the continued efforts for UN reform in New York, as well as Indonesia, which is vital for achieving greater collaboration across the development pillars and tangible results for people on the ground. We hope that UN programs can also nurture local engagement and include capacity building instruments as to make this program sustainable for local government and communities in Indonesia. The UN report and its implementation on the field are proof that we are able to remain committed with the priorities outlined in the Sustainable Development Cooperation framework while being flexible enough to adapt to the new challenges. The pandemic is far from over, so we indeed must strengthen and synergize our effort to revive multilateralism and achieve the SDGs by 2030. No one shall be left behind. Now, I would like to end my session with once again thanking and congratulating the government of Indonesia and the United Nations for the excellent cooperation throughout this year. Thank you.
Ibu Beni, thank you very much, representing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. And we'd like to thank you as well for our colleagues, participants, and distinguished guests who are still with us here at the Westin Hotel, as well as for those of you who are still joining us through Zoom. Now we are entering the Q&A and also feedback session. There will be two opportunities for you to ask the speakers here at the Westin Hotel. If you'd like to drop your question at the chat box, you are pleased to do so. Or if you'd like to ask directly to the speaker, please also raise your hand. And for the organizing committee, if you can help me to show the questions given by the participant on the screen, that would be really helpful. All right, we are inviting two questioners at this session. If somebody or anybody in the Zoom meeting room would like to ask questions, you are welcome to do so. Or if any one of the audience here would like to ask questions, you are also welcome to do so. All right, we are still waiting questioners from the online platform. Is there any question from the online platform? Not yet. Or from the audience here would like to ask questions to one of the speakers? You are please welcome to do so. Or maybe from table here in the corner. Is there any question given to the speakers? This is like a test, right? All right, if there's no question to the questioner, it's such a shame that there are many amazing speakers here at the forum and no one is giving feedback or questioning anything. There's one actually. From UNIDO, Mr. Esam, right? So can we show the question from Mr. Esam? Oh, okay, so he's raising his hand. Pak Esam from UNIDO. Please, please introduce briefly about yourself and ask your question to the person who'd like to ask to. Silakan,
well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. My name is Isam Al-Karara. I am a UNIDO representative in Indonesia and very pleased to be with you and with this opportunity. In fact, it's not a question. I noticed that nobody asked a question, so that I think that it's a worth to mention that in regard to innovation. In fact, we just developed a new project funded by JEF with the $2 million in phase one, co-funded with around $6 million with other partners, in which we will develop, the project will encourage the innovation spirit among the entrepreneurs, the SMEs, the academia, the student universities. We will implemented this project in other countries, in phase one, Pakistan, India, South Africa.
Sorry, Pak Isam, before you continue, can you please give us an idea of who this question is intended to?
No, I just would like to add an information, in fact, just the info, yeah.
All right. So please continue, Pak.
Yeah, so the idea is an annual competition. We pitch the competition among all trusted people in Indonesia, and we select 5 winners on the national level, and then we send them to, the project is implemented in cooperation with Silicon Valley, California, and the winners will go and compete globally. And the achievements in other countries that we had is distinguished, amazing achievement. For example, in Malaysia last year, or 2 years ago, one of the teams developed a idea in which they developed organic packaging. Samsung buy this idea with $32 million from 2 university students.
All right.
In India, yeah, so hopefully we will implement this project very soon. We'll launch it very soon in Indonesia. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Paisam from UNIDO is sharing about the fund that is collected to help MSMEs and also businesses at this difficult time. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Is there any other questioner, or we have to move on to the next session? All right. I think now we have to move on to the next session. So thank you very much for the feedback and also question given to us at this forum. Now I would like to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to join us to enter the inputs and also wrap-up session. Thus, we'd like to once again invite Pak Schneider to provide us with input and also wrap-up. Pak, would you like to sit here or stand on the podium? It's up to you. Yeah, I think the podium would be a better idea.
Well, thank you, Pak Rory. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a good opportunity for me to wrap up, because basically, even though I have to be in charge of this whole formulation, but to be honest, I don't know much about the detail, because partly of the my counterpart in sector deputies and related ministries, they deal with you mostly about the formulation of the indicators for the cooperation of the UN and government. However, at this occasion, I probably try to talk about our motivation. How can we come to into a better outcome for the humanity? Because we share the common fate. We live cohabitant in this planet with common challenges, especially because I'm from, I have this question actually, but since I was small, I said that because I was born from a relatively poor parents and lives in Indonesia, which is relatively now a developing countries compared to the others developed. I said to myself, why do I have to be born here with this fate that is, let's say, just for granted? You were born in the village from the poor parents and then have to struggle for life and struggle as well to go study, and also during whole life you have to struggle. Meanwhile, when you look at the royal family, someone who was born, suddenly he is big rich, he has all the royal inheritance, he has famous and power, blah, 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 etc. Then it comes to my question, then what is life? If that happened to someone that is very different and fate, someone from this situation, and the others is totally very, very different, then it comes to the question, so what is life about? And then it comes to realize now I have come to the understanding that life is about how to maximize ourselves. And I see that that's the thing that also probably applied to all of us. And I thank you for this opportunity. The term "no one left behind" is also try to address that kind of challenges. How can we also try to get our brothers or sisters that probably have less income, less fortunate, and less or lack understanding even in information, how can they maximize their lives? So it is a honor for me also to thanks for the United Nations that support Indonesia with this effort that I believe will contribute much to bring together how the Indonesian people to maximize the life in Indonesia. And once again, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
That's all from me.
Thank you, Pak Schneider. Let's give a big applause for Pak Schneider from Bappenas. And last but not least, let's once again welcome Ibu Valerie to give us an input and also wrap-up session.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, all of you, we are reaching the end of our yearly meeting. So we spent 2 hours together. And I must say, I want to reiterate on behalf of the entire UN family, our appreciation for all the work, all the support, the collaboration, and all the energy that has gone into this year's event, but also that has gone into 1 year of work. It has been a long road, this year 2021, as we have heard. It was a lot of challenges, lots of tragedies when we think about all the lives, Indonesians' lives that have been touched and affected by COVID. But our collaboration with the government of Indonesia, with the ministries, the agencies, and supported by a solid planning that we have done with Bappenas, and a constructive coordination, I think we have managed to yield very good results. And these are results, as we have heard, that have touched the lives of many Indonesians whose lives have been transformed, have been changed. So I want to say to all the Bappenas co-chairs, to my UN colleagues, co-chairs as well of these different working groups, including all the other working groups that we have actually in the coordination system, we are really indebted to you for the hard work that has been put in it and for the results that we have achieved. And because of the way you have done it in a very transparent and accountable manner. And I'm really confident that with that, it's one stone more on the construction of the SDGs. And I must say, during the debates that took place today, I want to tell also all the speakers that we have heard your feedback, the comments you made, and for sure we'll take that into consideration. I would like to give a warm thank you to Pak Taufik, who couldn't stay with us longer, but I want to thank him for being with us today, and definitely for also highlighting that on the way forward, the issue of policies is so important, and that's the work that we do jointly, but also to highlight the importance of the task of the G20 ahead of us. Pak Schneider, thank you very much for being with us, for your support throughout not only these events, but throughout the year, and we look forward to the continuation of our work. To Ibu Vivi also, who unfortunately could not stay longer because the strong collaboration that we have actually with the SDG Secretariat is essential to the work that we can achieve and to maintain us true to the spirit of the goals. To Ibu Winnie, I want to really thank her for joining us so early from Portugal, where she is for the conference on ocean, but also to remind us that Indonesia has big ambitions, and especially want to become the high-income economy in 2045, and that therefore, in order to do so, we need to transform the economy of the country, and particularly the blue economy. Pak Pungkas, thank you so much for your emphasis on the necessity to continue to work on enhancing the health system in so much as it supports everything we do. Pak Rizal also was joining us also, despite the fact that he is in recovery, by the way, but also to remind us of the challenges ahead, that the phasing out of coal is so essential if we want to have a sustainable development, because a development that is not sustainable is no development. And I want to congratulate also Pak Rizal on his new position. And I want to thank as well Ibu Penny, who came from MOFA, to also join us on this occasion and stressing the scope and the extent of the work that we have done. So definitely 2021 was challenging, but what is also interesting is that we have 2022 that is equally challenging. We know that we are having a year with the challenges of the war in Ukraine and the impacts that it has on the entire world and subsequently on Indonesia as well. And we also know that 2023 will be another challenging year with the presidency of the ASEAN. But I just want to finish my, my closing remarks, actually dwelling on what Pak Snyder was saying, that actually is completely in line with the commitment that the UN team in Indonesia has taken, is that in everything we do, we are committed to focusing, targeting, aiming first and foremost at the most disadvantaged people, at those who are left behind or those who risk to be left behind. And of course, the list of those people can be long, but I want to highlight some groups that have been mentioned by my colleagues, like the people with disability, of course, the women, and the rural and the coastal communities, and so many more. And I want to say that this commitment, this promise of the leaving no one behind is more than words. It's a strong, strong, strong commitment of the UN team here in Indonesia. And we are currently actually finishing a study on those people who are left behind, which of course we are going to share with the government so that together we can really harness. And I must say, Indonesia will be finishing soon the presidency of the G20, but definitely this G20, with the current context we are in, is really a big task and has a lot of, let's say, challenges ahead. And my final word would be to thank all my UN colleagues who have been contributing to this, and also my RCO colleagues, AFCER and the team of the RCO, without which I wouldn't be able to do all the work I'm doing, and who have put an enormous amount of work together with Bappenas in organizing this forum. And thank you, Pak Rory, for your excellent facilitation of this. And what can I say else? I'm looking forward to the UN Bappenas Forum, Bappenas UN Forum, sorry, 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Valerie, and also Pak Schneider. And that marks the end of today's event. And thank you very much for joining us. For those of you who are joining us online through Zoom or coming offline to Westin Hotel, thank you very much for joining us. And before we conclude, there's a tradition at UNSDCF that we will leave you with an SDGs poem that is in line with the 17 goals of SDGs, or in Indonesia, we call it pantun. So please allow me to read this poem for you. This is in line with the 17 goals of the SDGs. I wish for the world to be full of riches. I wish for everyone to eat fully cooked dishes. I wish for the death rate to go down to 0. I wish for everyone to know teachers are the true heroes. I wish for boys and girls to play together. I wish for polluted water to be vanquished forever. I wish for the light bulbs to be aglow in every house. I wish for people to work and upgrade their house. I wish for the 3 I's to come true. I wish for equal rights for me and you. I wish cities would stay afloat. I wish people wouldn't throw away what they grow. I wish for our ozone layer to become whole again. I wish the fishes can find their home again. I wish the animals can live in peace. I wish wars were absent and innocents were freed. And I wish for all of us to be as one. Then all inequalities shall come undone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation. Goodbye, stay safe, and good day. I didn't know who wrote this, but I think it's the organizing committee. But it's just so beautiful.
Very nice. We should have it in our report.
Goosebumps. Ibu Anjali, how are you doing, Bu?
You are a great facilitator, moderator. Fantastic.
Thank you
well
so much.
done.
Though the time was very limited, I was trying my best.
You did very well. Well done.
Thank you, Ibu Anjali. Okay.
Sampai kita ketemu tahun depan.